By the way,
Mhm.
I don't know if people can't cut trailers anymore, but not one trailer looked interesting.
For this
Not
movie?
one. The trailers before the movie they were just, I'm not saying the movies are going to be bad, but they were so boring. The trailer, there was one trailer for a documentary about the Holocaust
Yeah.
that must have been 10 minutes long. I don't know. Maybe I'm exact 5 minutes long. A trailer is like what, 2 or 3 minutes
Right.
long?
About 2 minutes, yeah.
This is about 5 minutes or more.
Oh, geez. Dude, have you noticed that the trailers before the movie is like 20 minutes? It's like the movie starts at 8:20, but at 8 o'clock, the trailers start, and for 20 minutes.
But I mean, yeah. But I mean,
I don't
this
like that part.
particular trailer was very, very long,
Yeah.
and it didn't do justice to the movie because now I don't want to see the movie. It didn't look interesting. And then the trailers
Mhm.
after all the other trailers just, they're supposed to get you excited
Yeah,
about.
yeah. They're not, I was listening to was it a podcast yesterday, Ruben? Someone said there was the movie Meet Joe Black. It was one of those movies that most people, not most, the opening weekend, there's like a percentage, I say like 20% of the people who went to go see that movie, have you heard this? Left the theater right before the movie started. Like 20% in the opening weekend. Do you know why?
Wait, wait. Left before the movies, 20% left before the movie started. No, why?
In 1998, because they showed the trailer for the new Star Wars film, Episode One, and people saw they wanted to see it on the big screen. They saw it right when Joe Black didn't seem look too interesting to them. They took off, and I think it was like 20%. It was a big percentage, and I'm like,
To go
what?
see Star Wars Episode One.
Just to see the trailer, and then they took off. They wanted to see it on the big screen.
Got it, got it, got it. Irony alert.
Yeah,
Uh,
Joe Black was better.
Meet Joe Black is way better.
No,
Okay.
I've seen like that 10 times.
You're announcing the team today. Are you gonna make it?
We rode out of need.
Come on, boys.
The need to stay in school, the need to eat, to sleep.
We gotta keep these, right? As long as we stay on the team.
Washington Huskies coach is bringing an inexperienced vote to the competition.
They said we couldn't compete with the richest schools in the nation.
The Washington vote has taken the lead. Washington has done it!
Hey there, welcome back to Pod and Deliver. Tonight we're reviewing a film entitled The Boys in the Boat. This is a 2023 film, just came out this winter, and it's directed by George Clooney. Ruben, this book is based on a book by Daniel James Brown. This book I read, I want to say maybe 10 years ago. My wife read it as well. It might be her last book she read. And I say that because it was such a good book. And I was a little timid in seeing the movie. I did see the previews. I see the documentary a few years ago. It came out. It was pretty good. And I said, wow, what is this? Are they going to do a good job with this? Because I love this book. And as I sat there watching it, Ruben, I'm going to say right now in the beginning, I really enjoyed the movie. There's an actor who's really the star of the film. His name is Callum Turner. Played his character is named Joe Rance, and Joe Rance is the title character in the book as well. You can't really pay attention to all the rowers. This is a book about rowers, right, during the 1932 Olympics, and it takes you back to their past where they started out at the University of Washington, and you see these rowers. A lot of them never rowed before, and the title character was just hungry. And I liked his story because you see him dealing with poverty as a child. His father got remarried, and he just left him really. In the book, kind of details more regarding his upbringing with his stepmother. Wasn't really too close to her, and so he took care of himself from 15 years old till after that, right? And he went through the depression years. These are people who are starving, and so you see these young men come to the University of Washington, get on these rowing teams, and they have to pick, right? There's a varsity team and a JV team, and the coach has to pick like 9 people or 8 rowers, and I think that the title is coxswain, the guy who shouts directions. Ruben, I might be pronouncing it wrong. Hopefully, those
I think
people
it's
out there.
Coxswain.
Coxswain, yeah, coxswain. And so gotta be careful with that. Anyway, my point is it does a really good job showing you that just the difficult being a rower. This is a back-breaking job, and this is a young man, the title character Joe Rance, who has to really put himself through it because he's hungry. Though he is not only hungry to do well, but hungry physically. And you see, him with his just making relationships, but also having a difficult time with relationships because he's a poor guy. He's barely making it. And so I like it because you see these young men get together. One of my favorite scenes, though, Ruben, is a scene where Joe Rance is coming onto a train. They're traveling. I forget if they're traveling back east or if they're going to row in Northern California. But you see that he meets a young man on the train. They're kind of teasing Joe, another rower, and Joe's mad. He just gets angry, walks away. And this other rower sees, wow, I really just upset Joe, and he feels bad about it. He goes back and tells Joe, hey, I'm just as poor as you, dude. I just kind of come off that I'm not, but I am poor. This coat I have is not, I mean, I got it for practically free. And so you see that these guys, not just Joe, but the whole team, they're guys who are not wealthy individuals, University of Washington. And you just really root for these guys because they're going against some big schools, the back east, Yale and Harvard. These guys have been rowing since they were out of the crib, you know. And then you see them go out to Germany. They've never left their country before, and you just root for them. And in a way, Ruben, you look at the film, you go, "This cannot be true. This is not a true story. How could these 9 individuals take on the best rowing team in Germany?" I think that year, Ruben, in 1932, the Germans won every rowing event.
It was 32.
1932.
It's 32. Yeah, I thought it was a little bit later. But
And
I agree
so-
with you. I like the film. And I just want to emphasize to people, this is a true story that got a lot right from what I've read. And this is a rowing team who just learned how to row, people. They're a JV team, people, at the University of Washington that beats the varsity team that had been rowing for a few years longer. And you've heard of an underdog story. You've seen Rudy. This makes Rudy look silly. Think about it.
So.
Rudy jumps in for one play. But Rudy is sweet in its own way. So yes, and you know what film really, it just screamed at me a similarity, not at the same level, but it just reminded me of, what am I going to say, Jacob?
It reminded you of is it
So-
the Latin runners?
No, don't
McFarland?
say the Jamaican bobsled team, please.
No,
I'm talking about breaking away, because in breaking away, you have these kids, the cutters, who are just kicked around and laughed at, and man, do you root for? Oh, I felt the same way in some of the sequences, the race sequences, as I did many years ago, and that's that excitement and that rooting. I'm moving in my seat. Now I'm just a old man at this point. How can I be moved like that, like I was when I was a kid? It really had that effect on me. So again, I'm not putting it on the level of a breaking away, but it's great. I also want to mention the coxswain played by Luke Slattery.
Oh yeah.
Now this is a smaller character, but you really see just that impact that he makes. The actor is great, you know, and it's in his eyes. It's just somebody who's small, but is inspiring to the rest of the team, especially the first oarsman. I know there's a name for it. I think it's called the stern. But so.
You know, Ruben, can I just tell you something? When you were sharing that, I was thinking about the actual sport. Do you know this is like big in the 1930s? This is like the big sport. Like you saw like a lot of people watching, but in reality, reading the book, you find out there's like 30, 40, 50,000 people. That's like a football stadium watching these rowers, like for these events. So this is a big deal at that time. I can't even believe why it's not big now. This is a tough sport, don't you think? I mean, this is tough. This is not easy.
I do want to mention a couple of things that I liked as well about it. It's kind of related to to teaching, but and I have a little bit of a knock on it. But there's one point where they asked the Joe Rance character. Somebody asked him, "Do you love or why do you do this? Why do you row? Is it because of the love of the sport?" Now you're expecting that kind of an answer. It's because I love this team. I love rowing. No, his answer is you get a job out of it and a room. And it reflects his background, but it also reflects that sometimes you don't go into something for the passion because you're passionate about it. A lot of times you hear that, right? You hear, oh, you're passionate about something, follow your dreams. Well, sometimes things aren't so things that bring you that kind of passion and joy, but if you commit to it, the passion will follow. And that's what happened with Joe Rance. And then, yeah.
No, yeah, you're right though. You could tell that he started loving it at the end. At first it was a job because he wanted to feed himself, but by the end he's enjoying what he's doing.
And the thing that the scene that you mentioned where the kid goes back and says, "Hey, I'm like you. I'm poor too." That was as a reaction to his own insult to Joe. He insulted Joe by poking fun at the fact that he was a hobo. He has nowhere to go because his dad abandoned him. So he insulted Joe, and Joe stood up for himself. And later, the kid apologizes. Hey, let's keep it. Let me be honest. I'm like you. I shouldn't have said what I said.
Yeah.
The other thing is that moment with the Luke Slattery character shouting at the rest of the at the oars of the boat.
Yeah.
The rowers. It was the first moment where we see the JV team break out, and he says, "Let's show the coach who's in this boat." Now, I got reminded at the power of not just motivating somebody, but the challenge and the competitive nature that a lot of our students have, and you really want to bring that out of them. And you can do that. You can really motivate as a teacher, and that really turned that team around. So I think that's what the film was trying to say too. Part of it is the impact of that coxswain. Again, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. And so,
and I think you're right though. I think that is part of the meat of it. Just saying, hey, this is a different type of group of people. And I'm not even sure if they'd be the great Ruben if it was 10 years later or 10 years before. This is just a time period where the country is hurting, and you kind of need these guys to do well. I mean, we're having Olympics next year, and I know this is not an accident to have this film come out this year, because people want to get excited for the Olympics. People want to say, are there stories? Did we stand up to the Germans in 1913? Yeah, we did. And these guys were one of those. Besides, who's the famous runner, the African American runner, who did really well? Jesse Owens did really well. He's kind of talked about a little bit, yeah.
I just have a question though. Didn't you feel as you were watching this that you wish you could have learned more about rowing?
Yeah,
that the movie could have taught you more about rowing.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I found myself as I'm watching this a little bit discombobulated over the sport. I don't know exactly what the first oar is and what his job is supposed to be, or the bow. I'm having a little. How do we pronounce that again? The bow, not the bow. Okay,
bow.
sorry.
I think bow. Yeah.
Oops. It's been a while since I've even used these kind of terms. Okay, stern, bow, bow. I'm forgetting how to pronounce them.
But you're right though. We didn't get to really learn about it.
We didn't, and I think we could have. I think this. So I want to point out two things. You say we can't learn what these other guys are. We can learn what these other guys are. The director's choice was to choose not to do that, but he could have by pointing out Johnson in the bow. Yeah. He's supposed to do this. Johnson, why aren't you doing? We could have gotten to know those guys by learning what their roles are, and we understand now who's blowing it on the team better. And I want to point out too, there were moments in the film where the coach is shouting at them, but you couldn't hear what the coach was saying. You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Those were lost opportunities.
Yeah.
And so I felt like this movie is good, but it could have been great. But of course, I still recommend it. And it's very inspiring. And you got to be, a corpse not to be excited at the ending.
I guess we didn't mention. Did we mention the director as George Clooney? Because
I thought I did.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you did, but I don't remember. But yeah, he definitely directed it. So yeah, there are a couple of things that weren't perfect. I do want to mention one more thing before we leave, and that is Joe Edgerton, who played Al Ubertson, the rowing coach, the one we just mentioned. I thought he did a good job. If you haven't seen the movie Loving, he does a great job by playing Richard Loving, this actor. I mean, this person who married a African American in the 1960s and got in trouble for that because it was against the law where he was from. Great act. I thought he was did a good job as a coach. And you know what? Like you said, Ruben, I do recommend it as well, and I do encourage people to go see it. And it's still
Kudos to Clooney for
Yeah.
not putting himself in that role. So I kind of knocked him on some choices he made, but if he had put himself in that role, which is a good role, this coach
It was.
he needed a guy with lesser, celebrity, because George Clooney would have been too big for that role.
Yeah.
He's a great actor, but it wouldn't have worked. So that was a good choice. So I'll give it. Give him that. So.
Good point. Well, listen, with that, we want to thank you for coming on to Pod and Deliver here, and we are excited about future movies that we're going to look at in books and people we're going to interview. Have yourself a good night, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast there. Press that button, press that bell, and we will see you soon on Pod and Deliver. Have a good night. Bye-bye.